Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We are the K-Roos brothers, giving you the fight news around the world. Nick, it's been a great year. We're coming off Christmas. We had a big meal yesterday. Coming in 14 kilos, a bit overweight. But what a year it's been. There hasn't been much UFC. Everyone's gearing up for UFC 311 next year. What's been the biggest takeaway of the year?
Well, when you have a big meal at Christmas, it gives you a lot of time to think about what's happened in the UFC. I don't know if that's what you were doing during Christmas yesterday, but that's what I was doing. I was focusing on my thoughts on the UFC, wrestling, what's happened this year, what's transpired. And really, it just came down to Volkanovski. I just thought he's had a terrible 2024. And going to 2025, he's going to have a big year. Whether he's going to fight in Sydney, which you still think he might, whether he's going to fight in Spain, whether he's going to fight Diego Lopez or Topuria. A lot of questions up in the air for Volkanovski, but he's my biggest takeaway for 2024.
My biggest takeaway for 2024 is Ilia Topuria becoming a massive Spanish superstar.
Just a superstar in general.
When you're talking about Spanish superstars, you're thinking Cristiano Ronaldo knows Portuguese. I know, but it's Spain.
La
Liga. Then you're talking Santiago Munez, who played for Real Madrid and represented his country, and now Ilia Topuria, who's become a bloody sensation in Spain and for Georgia. They're talking about selling out the Bernabeu. And the guy he's defended his title once. 2024 was his year. So I want to say it's crazy how much a fighter's life can change in the space of 1 year.
And similar to that, Alex Pereira, someone who just this year alone has catapulted into superstardom. Yes, at the beginning of the year, he had his feud with Adesanya, was a superstar, but now he's just that next level. Conor McGregor, John Jones, he's pushed into that echelon of superstars. That's because 3 title defenses in 1 year. Stepping up for the UFC, he was the MVP, he was the fighter of the year, and it was well-deserved.
We'll get into our awards for this season, or this UFC 2024 year, but let's get straight into the news. We've got some quick wrap-up of the news, then we're going to get you an interview with George Ferocious Kambosos. Looking into next year, DAZN just bought Foxtel. I don't know if you know.
It's been said that they're going to buy it, it's 100% bought.
They said that by financial year 2025 Q2, which I think is mid-year next year, DAZN will now own majority stake in Foxtel.
3.4 billion. Which is, I don't know, is that a lot?
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, that's hopefully good. Maybe things will stop buffering or get better access to more sports overseas. I don't know. Hopefully it's good.
Why I say that is George Kambosos is signed to Matchroom Boxing, DAZN Boxing. So we're going to see more of George Kambosos next year. We'll catch up with him a bit later and you'll see what he has to say. But let's get it straight into the news. Merab tries to go to the UFC PI, gets denied entry by security because Umar and Islam are inside, and they don't want to cause a bit of commotion.
Well, he put out on his Twitter saying that he's not being allowed into the UFC. He's not being allowed into his work. He's essentially been fired, is what I took from it.
No.
But if you look into it more deeply, they just don't want him and Umar in the same room because there will be a fight. They've tried to push and shove before backstage. If they get anywhere near each other, Merab will try and do something, is what I think the UFC security think. And I don't blame them. So it's like, surely these guys could go and organise separate training sessions at separate times.
Well, you saw what happened when Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill were in there. They said, yeah, take some boxing gloves, let's get in the ring and hash this out. The UFC don't want that. They want to get paid for these fights. So again, Merab, I think he said in his video, said he would have been composed, and I back his word. I think he would have been composed, let them train in the same facility. He just said he wanted to catch up with his friends, eat and train. Couldn't do that. He said it's all good, but he's going to smash this guy. He can't handle the disrespect. And he keeps getting disrespected. The UFC aren't really...
They're giving priority towards Umar, judging by that.
They're letting him train. They're keeping Merab away from him. It just seems a bit one-sided. They're taking favourites to the Umar and Islams of the world.
Well, I'm assuming that they're not in Dagestan because they're in full fight camp for Los Angeles. They've obviously probably relocated to Las Vegas. So the UFC obviously want to maybe cater to them a bit more because Merab is located in Vegas. Probably there's a bit more contacts, a few more locations to train at. But in saying that he's the champion, I feel like if he wants to go into the gym, you say, okay, Umar, get out. The champ is here. Yeah. And you only get that right by becoming champion.
Surely the champ gets first access to training.
I feel like that's, in any sort of scenario, the person with the higher societal status usually gets the, first favour.
Well, I know we're going to get into our prediction on the week of UFC 311 in January, but early predictions from now, Umar is a short price favourite. Yeah, and now you've got Merab not getting access to training at the UFC PI. Who do you think wins at very early prediction?
I'm still going to go with Merab, just based solely on his performance against Henry Cejudo, who's an Olympic gold medalist, and he dominated him, absolutely demolished him.
Yeah, but it's an old Cejudo.
And then you
Past
go
his
against
prime.
another former champion, Petr Yan, demolished him as well, ran through him. I think it was the most takedowns in a UFC fight ever.
Umar's young, inexperienced.
Umar's got the inexperience and obviously not the same caliber of opponents. Merab's beat former champions, 3 former champions now if you include Sugar Sean. So he's got a much better resume, and I think that experience and the hunger as well. He does not want to be disrespected. He wants to show why he's going to be a champion for a long time. I'm not saying Umar won't be a champion down the line, but I just think this will be the first Nurmagomedov loss in the UFC.
I got to agree with you. I got to back Merab. He's ultra motivated. It's like, when Michael Jordan has to have an excuse to hate someone, he's created an excuse to say, I want to kill this bloke. And you know what? I think he's going to get it done. He's going to have his first successful title defense. And he's going to earn some time on the shelf to rest and recover because he's rushed this fight.
Well, because you just putting up this tweet that he's not allowed in the PI. This was like the week of Christmas. It's like a day before Christmas. He's zoned in. I'm assuming he's not going to be splurging like we did on Christmas. He's not going to be having any alcohol. He's not going to be having any sort of Christmas ham or meats because he's solely focused on this training. He's been dieting hard, training hard. That's a big sacrifice, something that he did not want to do. I think he said his birthday is in early Jan as well. So he's missing out on a lot of key events for his life so he can verse Umar. He's not accepting this fight unless he knows he's going to get it done.
Well, Alexander Volkanovski took to his YouTube channel. He gave his top 5 in the UFC right now. I think all time.
Of all time.
Gave his top 5 of the UFC of all time, which I disagreed with some of Adesanya on there. I like Silver on there. But regardless, but he also revealed that he would fight Alex Pereira if the price was right.
That's just the true spirit of Volkanovski. I know there's been memes of him stepping up on short notice in just about everything, but he's made it clearly known that if the price is right, he'll fight absolutely anybody, anywhere. And Alex Pereira, the baddest guy in the UFC right now, I don't think that fight would go well for Volk. Even if the price was right, I'd recommend you don't take that fight.
Volk at light heavyweight. I mean, he's done it in the past. He was a front rower. I know they love to say that. But honestly, how much would it cost? What is your price to get in the ring with Alex Pereira?
Me personally?
If you're a professional. You know what I mean? John Jones wants to fight because it's a super fight. But like, if you're an up-and-coming UFC fighter and they give you $200,000 to fight Alex Pereira, you're taking it?
It's if I'm Volkanovski, I'm already set probably money-wise. He looks like he's pretty well off. He's done well for himself.
I just think he's just itching to get back into the octagon. That's what it is.
But if I'm somebody like Tony Ferguson and I'm looking for one more payday, big fight, I'll take the $200,000.
Okay.
Even if me personally right now, I know Alex Pereira could kill me.
For content, I would fight Alex Pereira for $100,000. Maybe even less. I think, you're a content creator, you get in there with one of the best.
And is it tax-free $200,000 as well?
If we're in Vegas, probably doing Abu Dhabi.
So if we're fighting in Australia, they're taking half. But if we're doing an Abu Dhabi, I'll take the full 200.
Yeah, 100%. Now, let's get into our fighter awards of the year. Everyone's been doing this. Now, we're going to do this a little bit different categories. Let's start, first of all, with the breakout star of the year.
Breakout star of the year.
I'm going Diego Lopez. I think he's kind of burst onto the scene in the featherweight division. He's had convincing wins. Other than that, anyone from the Fighting Nerds gym.
Yeah, I feel Carl Borralho. I feel like somebody I didn't really know at the start of the year, and then now he's all of a sudden in title contention. He's in big fight talks. He's moved up the rankings. I think he's become into the top 10. So he's definitely my breakout star of the year.
Submission of the year is Khamzat Chimaev breaking Robert Whittaker's teeth. This should be unanimous. He made quick work of Robert Whittaker. Everyone thought this was a new Robert Whittaker. You saw Ariel Helwani, all DC, all of these guys saying, we haven't seen this Rob Whittaker before. He zoned in and he broke his teeth in 2.5 minutes just with a neck crank.
My submission of the year, I'm going Jim fucking Miller. Just because we were there live in attendance, I thought he was going to get the win. But for him to go and win by submission, I thought, mate, he's still got some legs. He still can do it. So Jim Miller.
Biggest L of the year, for me, is Colby Covington. Coming in on short notice, I got behind him. He got Trump elected and he didn't train. He was so focused on being on the campaign trail with Trump. He stepped in the octagon, I know, on short notice, and he got the cut. But it's just like his aura's kind of gone. He lost to a very hungry Joaquin Buckley. And at the end of the day, it's just not the same Colby Covington that we've seen face Kamaru Usman. And I just think this could be the last we see of Colby Covington.
My biggest L of the year goes to Jamal Hill. And I know there's many instances where he could have copped the biggest L.
Probably the knockout.
But it is the knockout where, Alex Pereira was doing that to his dead body on the floor. That's the biggest L. That or the boxing gloves. It's really tied for 1 and 2, Jamal Hill. So just Jamal Hill.
The most underrated fighter of the year?
Fighter.
Fighter.
Most underrated fighter of the year? I'm going to go Dustin Poirier. Yes, he did lose to Islam Makhachev, but he did beat Benoit Saint-Denis. And it was just a very surprising year for him to get a title shot again, do very well in that title shot. He gave Islam one of his biggest tests, and he demolished Benoit Saint-Denis. So if you actually look at his 2024, Dustin Poirier had a very good year.
This might be controversial, but my most underrated fighter is Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad. As someone who gets absolutely no respect. People are forgetting his name when he's walking into the octagon. He's not getting allowed entry into the octagon. He deserves a lot more respect because for the work that he made of Leon Edwards, how easy he made it look. When you got fighters like Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman losing to Leon Edwards, and he walked through him for 5 rounds in a convincing win, I think Bilal Muhammad is the most underrated fighter in the UFC, and I think he beat Shavkat Rakhmonov, the Shavkat we saw against Ian Gary. So Bilal is my most underrated fighter.
Another honourable mention, Renato Moicano. Had a couple good wins this year as well. Talks a lot of great work on the mic. So I want to give him his flowers.
Definitely he gets comeback of the year as a fighter, definitely. 100%. MVP of the UFC has to be Alex Pereira. On a moment's notice, he's getting the call from Dana White. You're in Australia. I know you're on vacation. You're doing a tour. But can you come save UFC Utah? Can you save UFC 300? Alex Pereira is the MVP, and for me, fighter of the year.
For me, it's Ilia Topuria. I do agree with Alex Pereira, but Ilia Topuria knocking out Volkanovski, then knocking out Max Holloway, 2 of the featherweight goats, to do that in the same year, in back-to-back fights. He solidified himself as a superstar and the biggest UFC name going forward.
It's quality over quantity for Ilia. He beat more quality opponents than Alex Pereira. If you want to go with Ilia, that's completely fine.
And when we spoke to the fighters, they were torn on Pereira and Topuria as well. They both said, look, they both deserve a lot, but they're going to go with Pereira. I think that was the consensus.
And knockout of the year, I think it's easy. Every fighter had said it's Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, UFC 300. It didn't need to happen. It was at the end of the round, points to the ground. Absolutely KOs him. And honestly, we haven't seen Justin Gaethje since.
And that is probably the greatest knockout of all time. So that supersedes the year. Yes, Topuria versus Max Holloway did get an honourable mention as well. There's been some other Alex Pereira knockouts you see, whether Jamal Hill or Prohaska, but Max Holloway gets this.
Okay, some quick fight news to wrap out the year. I know there's not a lot going on and we're still waiting for UFC 311, but some things that have happened. Paddy Pimblett hints at his new opponent, possibly at UFC London. He said his opponent's locked in, the date's locked in, and I'll see you at the top. Is that Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler?
I mean, I don't know if I'll see you at the top is a part of Liverpool slang.
It's not Scouser.
So it's not Scouser slang, so that could only mean you're fighting Michael Chandler. So if he's versus Michael Chandler, that is something I'm excited for. He does want higher ranked opponents. Michael Chandler is higher ranked than Paddy Pimblett, and it's a fight they both need, so I want to see this happen.
Paddy Pimblett just keeps fighting guys closer to their 40s. And I think the UFC are matchmaking him perfectly because I could still see Paddy Pimblett winning this. Michael Chandler is a very skilled opponent. You saw how far he took Charles Oliveira. But Paddy Pimblett isn't no slouch either. Submitted Bobby Green, first person to submit him. King Green, my apologies. But I just think this is terrible for Michael Chandler because a loss here definitely is the end of Michael Chandler. At his age right now and the money he can make with the potential Conor McGregor fight, losing to Paddy Pimblett would absolutely kill him. He looked strong in defeat against Charles Oliveira. A defeat against Paddy Pimblett would definitely be the end of
how would you advise him then? You're saying don't fight Paddy, hold out for McGregor?
Hold out for McGregor.
Hey, he's fighting in India.
McGregor, he's going to fight Jake Paul, Logan Paul, whoever it is. But McGregor is keen to get back in the octagon because of his reputation damage. So I think my money is on McGregor having the 2025 fight this year. I would hold out for the paycheck.
I would say fight Paddy Pimblett, one, because it's a fight he can win. I think he's a better fighter than Paddy Pimblett. He can defend his takedowns. He's probably as good at getting off the ground, so Paddy Pimblett won't be able to use his strengths. And then in striking, that's where Michael Chandler, in the electric way that he does, can get a finish as well. So I would say fight him. It's a big name. It's somebody who can put you back up into the top 5 versus someone.
Hopefully on a pay-per-view. Hopefully on a pay-per-view. I don't want to see it on UFC London. I know they might stack UFC London, but these are pay-per-view fights. You know what I mean? If you're going to put Leon Edwards on London, and potentially have JDM on there, I want to see these fights on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, I think this will be like a co-main or something on a pay-per-view later in the year, maybe Vegas or maybe even a later English card in the year.
Some other rumours circling around the fights is that Tom Aspinall versus John Jones is a done deal potentially for July.
Well, that's when everyone's been talking about it, International Fight Week, or even maybe just around that time. It's enough time for John Jones to have a break from November. And John Jones does seem to only fight in Las Vegas. I feel like that's his home territory, and he wants the big gate. That's where it is.
Aspinall's still teasing John Jones online. He just put up his Christmas ham, a Christmas dinner or lunch, and it was a duck. And he tagged John Jones. He put John Jones' face on the duck, alluding to John Jones is still ducking him. So I still think this fight's going to happen. Aspinall's very confident it's going to happen. Dana White's confident it's going to happen. I just want to see it sooner rather than later because Tom Aspinall's been on the shelf since UFC Manchester.
Which was in August.
This could potentially be almost a year out for
And
Tom
that's,
Aspinall.
and that's the thing. And you don't know how the fight's going to go. So regardless of the winner, they're not going to be fighting probably again in 2025.
John Jones laid out his 5-year plan, saying that he did an interview recently. He said that he wants to have at least potentially 2 more fights in the UFC, making as much money as he can. There's been rumors of that $30 million price tag for him to get in the octagon. So you could see him potentially facing Aspinall, then facing Alex Pereira or another big super fight. Then he says he wants to focus on his acting career, saying he's enjoyed acting. He acted I think he played someone in the military or someone in the Marines. And he says he wants to use the UFC as a launch pad into Hollywood. Could you see John Jones acting?
Yes, I can, because he's a superstar and he can do whatever he likes, and he's a big name. So, you saw Conor McGregor in the Amazon Prime movie. What was it called?
Yeah, the one with the boats.
One with Jake Gyllenhaal. I forget the name.
Yeah.
But Conor McGregor.
Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse. Brings a lot of names. So I could see a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or another streaming service just saying, hey, we've got John Jones in a movie. UFC fans, come watch this movie.
He can be in like an Expendables 5.
Expendables.
5 with Rocky and George
And
St. Pierre.
Arnold's probably got another run in him as well.
Yeah.
So, John Jones, do whatever you like. I like your 5-year plan. It's a 5-year plan that was probably better than Michael Chandler's plan. I can see it happening and a lot more likely.
Okay, Nick, this one is a bit weird to me because I don't think it can happen. So I'm going to call it fact or cap.
Okay.
Javier Mendez, Islam Makhachev's coach, says Islam Makhachev could be champ at 145 pounds.
185.
185 pounds.
185.
Let me do that. Islam Makhachev could be champ at 185 pounds. I think that's bullshit.
I think this is definitely bullshit because, one, he refuses to fight Bilal Muhammad at welterweight. Mm-hmm. That is already a challenge in itself, even if it's Shavkat. Then you want to go up to DDP and Khamzat's weight.
Much bigger guys.
I don't know if you can see the big difference between 155 and 185. Yes, it's only 15 kilos.
And they refer to him as a weight bully. He's walking around at a much heavier weight, but these guys are a lot heavier. And you've seen what they've been able to do, whether it's Khamzat, DDP, Adesanya. These guys can wrestle, but also have a lot heavier hands. He struggled against a guy like Dustin Poirier.
Alex Volkanovski.
Yeah.
So he does have trouble against other opponents. Javier Mendez, for his reasoning, was saying, I've seen this guy in the gym. I know how good he is. 185, it's just whether Islam wants to do it. Well, Islam, I feel like, has to go for Bilal or the welterweight division first before there's any talk of this happening. But I do like the idea of a triple champ. I feel like Islam is one of the generational fighters, one of the best fighters of all time. So maybe he can do it. I feel like if you put him against DDP, he does have a chance of winning. Are you going to say he doesn't?
No, of course he does. You'd never count him out. The guy's an absolute freak, probably pound for pound #1 best fighter in the world right now. So I wouldn't count him out. It would be very intriguing. But I think he gets to welterweight first before we talk any other super fights.
The super fight that I do...
He's basically saying it could be the first ever triple champ.
Yeah, but the super fight that I do want to see, if he does go to 185, is Islam versus Khamzat. I feel like that would just be the best fight ever. Wrestling, striking, you could do it in Abu Dhabi. They'll both get paid very well, and it'll just go off. Like that is... I understand the Muslim Brotherhood.
They can't fight their Muslim brothers.
But, Chechnya and Dagestan, I heard they don't have the best of relations throughout history, so it's a fight that could happen.
Let's move on. We caught up with George Ferocious Kambosos here in Australia. He's gearing up for a massive 2025 in the Australian boxing scene. This is a guy that's taken Australian boxing on a world stage, defeating Teofimo Lopez, going up against Devin Haney. He's got some big fights coming up in 2025. We caught up with George. Here's what he had to say. I'm here with George Kambosos Jr. We're here at Alpha Gym now. George, you're moving up in weight. I want to ask you, how's the body feeling? How are you going into 2025?
Yeah, man, moving up to 140 pounds. Obviously, a long time coming. I've been able to achieve everything at 135, every belt, all the big fights, all the big names. So I feel good, man. It's been a long time coming. 140 is comfortable for me, and we move into a new division, and we still got world champions calling me out. So it shows our impact in the world of boxing. It shows where we're at. So I can't wait for 2025.
What was the immediate reaction after the Paro fight? I know you did get called out by Hitchens, but what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, look, I'm friends with Liam Parra. As much as there was talk about a lot of big talk about me and him fighting and doing the big stadium fight. You know, I was backing him, I was supporting him, and obviously you got to feel when any Aussie loses, you know, world title fight, they put so much hard work to get there. You want to see them do good and be successful and make money from the sport and keep building that legacy. So it was a tough one to swallow, but you move forward. He'll move forward, go on to what he's got to do, and obviously we had Hitchens, the guy that beat him a day after, living rent-free in his little peanut brain. So he wants to call me out and fight in New York. I'm 2-0 in New York against a couple of big mouths, so I'll go fight him mid-year.
I'd like to see you back in Aussies, but I want to bring up a tweet that you did bring up. You tweeted out about Tim Tszyu's recent loss. He just recently came back out into the media, addressed the loss, says he hasn't watched it back. But you immediately tweeted out that it's probably the fault of the media, putting such a big spotlight on Tim Tszyu and his brother. Do you think that his next move is fighting back in Australia, going the Paro route, and just trying to get some more wins before heading back overseas?
Yeah, look, for Tim, I've known Tim from a long time, and look, it's very unfortunate what happened, but again, when you go in with a certain game plan and try to kind of just out-muscle someone like that, that's what happens. But yeah, I did touch on the media. I touched on it because I've been able to build up my own name and never really needed any media. Sometimes they blow too much smoke up someone's ass, and that's how it's been. And a lot of people agree. There's a lot of great fighters doing great things in this country that have done more than what he's done, but don't get the recognition. So sometimes, yeah, it's come back to bite him. He's a good kid. I'm sure he's going to bounce back. Does he go back to fight in Australia, or does he try to get another good fight in America and try to work his way back up? That's his team. They're going to have to work that out. Obviously, I'm very focused on what I've got to do, but all the best to them. Like I said, we're Australians. We're guys on the world level, and we're trying to get to the top. And obviously, I've been at the top. I've been at the pinnacle. So, hopefully, he can work his way back up there. But it's no easy ask.
Now, you recently signed with DAZN, Eddie Hearn. They're looking to have a massive 2025 here in Australia. They got Jai Opetaia coming in January, defending his title. What do you think this is going to do for the landscape of boxing in Australia, having DAZN as a presence here in Australia?
Yeah, look, DAZN is such a big factor in the world of boxing. It's such a simple concept where anyone can watch the fight from their phone to their TV to the computer to their laptop. You can probably get it on your old school Nokia phone. That's how good that they are doing. So I'm excited to be back with DAZN. Obviously, I had my Undisputed Championship winning on their platform. To be back working with Eddie Hearn, the Bell Entertainment, my original promoter, and Ferocious Promotions, it's exciting, and they're coming in heavy. They got the marquee name right here now, and obviously we've got Jai Opetaia fighting January 8th. I'm looking forward to it against David Nikia, which is a great fight, big step up, and then Kambosos will be back on the DAZN platform end of February, early March.
Mate, we're looking forward to it. I want to just get your prediction. I'll probably put this out next week, but who do you think? Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk rematch. It's this Sunday. Who you got?
Look, it's always hard to bet against Tyson Fury if he's fighting anyone else, but this is Usyk. I speak with Usyk frequently. I got to back my Orthodox brother. I feel that and again, Tyson is
he loves his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as well.
He's a believer as well. So hopefully he goes into that fight and he's safe and goes back to his family. But again, I got to back Usyk the whole way.
Tyson says he hasn't spoken to his family in 3 months. He's trying to get in the zone. Do you do anything? What's your main superstition going into a fight? Do you ignore your dad? What's your main pre-fight ritual? No,
I never ignore my dad. He's the best manager in the world. So if I'm ignoring him, then the right deal is not happening, and he's not telling me how many millions we're making. So no, look, we just stay relaxed. We stay focused, and of course, I'm a father. I've got 3 kids, and sometimes the kids can put you on edge when you're cutting weight and you're getting ready for a fight. So you just got to time manage everything and be dad and be fighter and be husband and, be the public ferocious Kambosos when it's the right time. But, it's interesting. He said he hasn't spoken to his kids or wife for 3 months. I don't know how that works. I'm sure he's got to have some kind of contact.
I think he's just sick of them. I think he just doesn't want to eat. Just
maybe just had enough. I know there's 5, 6, 7 kids, so maybe he just had enough. He goes, I don't want to talk to any of you.
Now, last one. I don't want to stir anything up, but you and Ryan Garcia, you have gone back and forth on Twitter in the past. He's doing an exhibition fight in Japan. How do you think he's going to go? And I also want to get your thoughts on Devin Haney suing him for their last fight. What do you think? Does suing people in boxing make sense?
Yeah, look, me and Ryan we did have a good relationship. We did speak and we did talk about a potential fight when I had the belts, but obviously there is no love lost there anymore. He has pulled out of the injury with a wrist injury, his last fight, that he's the recent fight he's supposed to have with the Japanese guy. So, look, whatever his business, we'll settle that one way or another.
Would a future fight ever be on the horizon, you and Ryan Garcia?
Yeah, I want to fight him, not in the ring, somewhere else. Just me and him for his comments and what he said. But anyway, that's for another story, another time. Now, Devin Haney, a good friend of mine, a guy that I fought twice. Look, it's a hard concept. It's hard for people to understand what's going on behind the scenes. I get asked about it a lot of times. Look, it's his business. Whatever way him and Bill are going about it, it's their business. I would do it maybe differently if I was in that situation. But look, whatever way, I respect Devin and his dad. And I know he cops a lot of shit about the way things are gone. And he only lost to Ryan Garcia, who's obviously a good fighter. He's a good fighter, but he was 2.83 kilos heavier as well. Forget the Osterine. That's another thing to talk about.
Allegedly.
Let's talk about the weight. So anyway, Dev will be back, and we'll see what happens there.
Well, George, I want to wish you the best of luck. I know it's going to be a big 2025. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it, brother.
Definitely appreciate it.